So we can start off with some questions. So Tobe Johnson, Dr. Simeon Hine, Rich Germeau, Michael Ferry, and Jill Rimmensnyder, and Brett Eichenberger. So we'll get into some deep conversations here, you guys. We've got here some fun stories. I do want to start off with one thing, and that is kind of some sort of late-breaking science news-ish from Dr. Simeon Hine. He's got a theory as to why Bigfoots appear blurry. And this theory came out after we did the filming of this documentary. So we might start there, and then we'll start with questions, because I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, well, thanks, Brett. And thanks, everyone, for being here today. Thanks for participating. Yeah, so the real gratifying thing about participating in the Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot, is that, I keep following up on the science, the sort of things I'm talking about in the film. And it's just really positive sort of sense of accumulating knowledge, developing what we're dealing with here, is that there's more evidence than I was even able to present in this film, because I've only found out about it. And what Brett's referring to is research that comes out of Russia and people that were working physics in the Soviet Union when it used to exist, which is that they said that their reactors, cold fusion, what's really called now low energy nuclear reaction, it never really was cold fusion. That's what people didn't really, what Leonard's a better name. Basically what they said is that they could never get good photos of the microball lightning in their lab produced, because the permittivity, which is basically a material's ability to resist an electrical field. We have things, reality, conductors, things that are insulated. And you move towards the conductive realm of materials, things like metals, those have lower permittivity, and it's more like glass and rubber fields, higher permittivity. We know that these ball lightning lower the permittivity of the area that they're around. They have a lower permittivity, and they encourage electrical flow. Some people know who've been around ball lightning, just, when it's shown up, quite a shock. It can even be damage causing to animals and people. That these sorts of lab-produced ball lightnings have an oscillating permittivity. They have this oscillating nature to them. It's called complex permittivity or research. In any case, the photos always look. And so it would sort of suggest that these sort of phenomena that, people say, how come there's no really good sharp photos of it? It's because the phenomena are inherently, they are blurry, because you're dealing with oscillating permittivity. Permittivity and permeability, the other fundamental constant that we talk about, determine the speed of light, because the speed of light's based on, forget what is it? 100. Right, that's...
You get a gold star, sir.
No, but that's when permittivity and permeability are set at 1, which is the way, that's correct. But that's the normal way we think about it. The reality is that light has a variable speed when permittivity and permeability vary. And so it's not exactly that speed when you're around these sort of microball lightnings, or I would argue what we call paranormal phenomena, because if you have oscillating complex permittivity, that speed is going to be varying around. It's not going to be constant anymore. As a result, the type of equipment we have, the light's moving around in a way that makes the objects look blurry. So how often have we heard about UFOs? People say, where's a good photo? Why do they always look a little blurry, right? The ball lightnings you've seen, even the ones that Brett and then crew are showing in the film here, you see those always look a little blurry. They're not really well defined, because they are blurry. And I would argue, from Simeon's point of view on this phenomenon, that Bigfoot photos, for the most part, look really blurry or just ill-defined, is because because creatures have a complex primitivity. You and I have a simple primitivity. Sorry to bust your ego here. They have a complex primitivity, which would give them a range of abilities that we don't know we possess if we have them, right? And also make them look strange on camera. Even the best looks, it just looks a little ill-defined, apart from the Patty film, which is photographed on old-style 16 millimeter, and perhaps the Paul Freeman footage from the Blue Mountains from '94, which of course was a high 8 or 8 millimeter. So it's also a little, we don't really know if that would have resolved. But that would be my belief of why these types of creatures and objects look blurry, because they are blurry. And that's my take on it. We were talking about this last night.
Yeah. And just to add to that too, there's obviously there's other components in that too. I mean, there's focus, the camera that can just make it blurry. There's motion blur. When an object moves too fast and the shutter is too slow, you get a blurring motion. And so there's other things that are at play. Mike can maybe talk more about that if you guys have questions about that. The one thing I did want to point out, though, is that there was kind of a famous sighting of, or experience, I guess you could say, of some UFO landing in the backyard of some folks in Las Vegas. I think it was last year. And a 15-year-old had a clear sighting, or lack thereof. He looked at these alien creatures, and he literally said that they went blurry. And you guys can watch this on YouTube. The boy's name was Angel. I can't remember the name of the family, but if you type in Las Vegas aliens or Las Vegas UFOs, you should come up with this. But he definitely talks about it. He says, like, I looked at them and they were blurry. So one more question for you, Simeon. Do you think that they, the cloaking thing seems like it's a different mechanism. Maybe it's related. Do you think that they can they must be able to control the blur?
Right, that's what I think's going on. And this links back to something that you're familiar with from our news recently. Since 2017, the government's OSAP program is ATIP, right? You've heard about this, Pentagon UFO research program. So they refer to UFOs' mechanism, ability to do this, to accelerate at these rapid speeds, which we've even heard from people here today about their sighting of these creatures. They called it Spacetime metric engineering, which is basically a fancy name for a metamaterial which can alter its permittivity, tunable permittivity, which would allow the inhabitants of these UFOs, UAPs they're now called, to create their own propulsion system just by changing the light or their frame of reference with these materials. So I'd argue, Brett, that I think Bigfoot and other cryptids like this have their own biological space metric. I think we were saying manipulation last night. We're trying to come up with our own word. I think that's what we're dealing with here. It may be a big shock to special access engineering community that what they feel like is state-of-the-art technology, again, some life form, has already been using for thousands of years, perhaps, to manipulate space-time in a way that has a sort of biological survival, right? Yeah. So that's what it seems like is they can. And by the way, I used ChatGPT, this AI tool that we can all have access to now online, to look up if complex permittivity was related to biological, and it came back, yes, there are materials, biological, that have varying permittivity. So if you could control that in some way, the way even humans learn some sort of bio-mind control for meditation, if they had developed that on their own, they would have a variable permittivity that they could use in ways that are advantageous.
And one more thing that I just considered. When we did our world premiere of this movie in Vernal, Utah at Phenomenon back in September, Dr. Hine had a conversation with a fellow scientist that worked at I think a big national lab in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And Oak Ridge. He couldn't say much, but
right.
What did he say? What did he tell you?
Yeah, he said his reaction to the film that we all just saw, Paranormal Bigfoot, was that it was accurate based on his knowledge from classified DOE energy programs. And DOE has a lot of classification, particularly DOE. We believe a lot of UFO research sequestered DOE programs, which are exempt from FOIA, by the way, because it has nuclear. And he said he saw the film and he thought it was accurate and was quite interested in this conversation that we created here about plasmas. He was a plasma researcher, and we are talking about the next state of matter, plasmas in the film, which is coherent matter. And he thought it made sense based on what the types of quite interesting feedback.
DOE is Department of Energy, FOIA is Freedom of Information. just in case, I know sometimes it gets easy to talk and back.